Radio Now 100.9's Indy Connection with Emily Metheny.
Hello, I'm Emily Metheny, your host. This week, I was able to catch up with Tammy Lundy, Indiana Chapter Chair and Indianapolis Walk Chair for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So, Tammy, to kind of start, can you talk a little bit about why we see a lot of talk about mental health around the holidays?
I think that we see a lot of talk about mental health around the holidays because of the fact that the holidays can sometimes come with pressure. It can be financial pressure, it can be social pressure, and it can be a time where you might miss people, or you might feel that people have expectations of you that you're not able to fulfill.
Mm-hmm. And especially because of the pandemic and how difficult the past 2 years have been, there's a lot that we need to be considering when we go into the holidays. How can we treat ourselves better if we're feeling some of these pressures, some of this grief?
I would definitely say what you can do to help yourself with some of the pressures and is to kind of take some of the pressure away from yourself, the expectations that you may feel that other people have for you, and balancing that with what you need for yourself and your own mental health. A really good way to do that is, you want to make sure that you don't isolate from others, but you do find a good balance between spending time with loved ones and being alone.
And when you mentioned isolation, what if someone's never really thought about being isolated? What can that look like, and what can we look out for with our friends and our family?
You can see that somebody is not engaged, or that they decline all of your invitations, where they might have been one that might come out, might do things with you. You might see the way that they are just acting in general. Maybe they're a little bit more sad than they normally are, and that they're not their normal. They're not acting as they normally would, or participating as much as maybe they normally would.
And if we're seeing this, how can we be there and interact with them? You mentioned if you're inviting them, but they're not coming, or they're declining the offer, how can we still show our support for them?
Well, you can talk to them, and I always encourage everyone to please continue to ask. Sending a text, just saying, hi, how are you doing? Thinking of you today. Maybe it's the activities that they're being invited to. Maybe if it's a large gathering, a party, or going to a club, or, to the zoo, things that can be very overwhelming if you're feeling sad, that maybe to try and find something that's maybe just a little bit less, like meeting for coffee or going on a hike, just meeting for a movie night, a one-on-one kind of a hangout. That offers very little pressure to it, and not a lot of preparation.
And what can we do if we feel that we are sad this holiday season? What can we do for ourselves?
I would absolutely make sure to take care of yourself. So knowing your boundaries and what you need without shutting down too much. Make sure that you make time for yourself and make time for your social activities as well, so that you're making sure to take care of your mental health. So make sure to do things that are self-care, a bubble bath, a walk, a show, You could have a show that you watch and that you really enjoy. Reading, anything that might give you that self-care that you need. And then also just making sure to try. So if you're invited, you can say that I'm going to try and come to the party tonight, or I'm going to try and come to our family get together. But if you're uncomfortable, you can have an exit strategy where you just go, you know what, I really did try, but this just isn't working for me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and go home, but just make sure that everybody knows that you're okay, and that, you know, you have a strategy of what you're going to do when you get home, whether it's to have some self-care or to reach out and talk to somebody that you might be able to have a conversation with about your grief.
And you mentioned grief. So if this is someone's first holiday without a loved one, what can they be doing to either, you mentioned self-care, what else can they be doing? Is there any resources available to kind of to talk them through some grief?
Absolutely. We have our website, afsp.org, and there are several, and you can go to /resources, and you'll see all the resources that we have available there. We have links to where you can look up and you can attend support groups. We have a crisis text and talk line. We have a lot of just different materials that, you know, if you've lost someone, that they can help, literature that you can read. We have book suggestions that you can read. And we also have the availability that if you feel like you need or want something to do, we have the availability to volunteer to do things within our community that we are doing here locally in Indiana. So that I would definitely recommend that if it is your first holiday and you have lost someone, that you might want to go ahead and just look at all the resources that we have available there.
Mm-hmm. And if it's someone's first holiday without someone, I know we've had this conversation in the past, but it's okay to be experiencing this grief. It's part of the process, yes?
Absolutely. Yes, completely. And the one thing that I would say is spend the time with the people who make you feel the most secure, the ones that, you know, you feel like you can share your grief with, because you are going to have to process it. The first holidays, and every holiday thereafter is a little bit different, but especially the first holidays and getting through them can sometimes be just a very difficult time. And a lot of people will put pressure on themselves about they need to do everything that they did before, or that they need to do something totally different because of the fact that their loved one's not there and they feel like they've got to do something huge to honor them. And all of those things, when you're going through grief, to put that additional pressure on yourself is really difficult. So trying to take a step back and knowing that you don't have to change anything if you don't want to, or you can make a change if it's going to help you. Evaluate what those things mean to you and how you're going to react to it.
And does grief look the same person to person?
Absolutely no. Greg and I, we grieve totally different. And a lot of families do, and a lot of friends do. People just in general can grieve very differently. Some people don't want to talk. Other people feel that they need to talk about their grief and their experience and how much they miss someone. And it doesn't mean that one of them is doing it wrong. Everybody has their own process and what works and is healthy for them.
And as someone who might not be experiencing the grief as closely. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but as a friend or family, how can I support multiple types of grief?
Just definitely, no matter how far or near you are, if you know about somebody who is experiencing grief during the holidays or any time, a smile, a text message, a phone call, just to reach out and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, and I just wanted to check in and see how you're doing. Being a willing ear just to listen if they do want to talk, or maybe just being a willing person that would be there to sit with them, even if they just don't want to talk, just to be somebody there to physically support them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Tammy, can you give your website one more time for people with resources as well?
Yes, it's afsp.org. And you can also go to /Indiana to find our specific, to find the specific Indiana resources that we have. The afsp.org website will also give you a vast amount of resources that the Indiana website doesn't have. So I would definitely make sure to visit both locations of that website.
Excellent. And you mentioned volunteer opportunities. How can volunteering help with that isolation and being with people during the holiday season?
It's probably the best thing that helped me. After I lost my daughter, I started volunteering with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. It put me in a space with people who had the same type of grief that I did, maybe not the same loss, but it was a group of people who I felt got it and they understood. I felt safer, where maybe I might be able to cry in front of them or to show my emotions more than I would somebody outside of that circle. It also can give you a sense of fulfillment. So with me, I do this not only for my daughter and in her name to honor her memory, but it's also to help other families and other people to ensure that they don't have to go through the loss of a suicide by a loved one. So it can be very rewarding, as well as just making change in the world that we need to have happen.
And with volunteering, is it just something I just jump straight into, or is it something that I can work my way up to?
You can absolutely work your way up to it, and really in any organization that you would volunteer with, you would really want to get familiar with the organization and go through the steps so that you understand the mission and all of the programs and everything and volunteer opportunities that are available to you, because you want to make sure to understand what you're advocating for or what you're supporting. You want to make sure that you can speak to it. And then you also want to make sure that you're doing something that it feeds your soul, that you're happy with. And that's in a lot of organizations, as well as the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. We want to make sure that whatever you're picking and whatever you're doing to volunteer, it feeds your soul.
And you mentioned a little bit about the mission and the activity, not the activities, but the mission and the reason with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Can you talk a little bit more about what the foundation is going to be doing in this upcoming year?
Yeah, we have a lot of events that we'll be doing throughout the year, but the one that I wanted to make sure that we talked about is our State Capitol Day that's going to be coming up and being announced March 8th. So this is where we get to come in and we get to talk to our legislatures here locally at the State House. And people get an opportunity to sit down with our government officials and talk to them about what we'd like to see happening in the state of Indiana. They'll get an opportunity to tell their story and to advocate for the change that they want to have happen. We do everything with volunteers. So we invite people from within our community and to come in and to talk to our representatives. And then the other opportunity that we have, if it's not something that you want to do in person, is you can go ahead and register on our website, and we will go ahead and give you an opportunity to advocate for suicide. So what we'll do is, if you subscribe to the advocacy site, we'll keep you updated with the bills and everything that we're lobbying for in at both state and federal levels, and give you your representatives so that you can send them a message to ask them to please advocate for that bill. And it's a super simple process. It takes 2 minutes or less. And it is a huge voice when we get a lot of people who are reaching out to our government officials to help us with better mental health laws.
Mm-hmm. And if someone's never been active and an advocate before in that capacity, what is that experience like? What is that volunteering like?
It is absolutely awesome. I think from the viewpoint of it, we give you two opportunities. So you can be as very close to it as you want to be, or you can be as removed from it as you would like to be. So having the email, that gives you the ability to have a voice and make a change, but not have to be directly in front of someone talking to them. When you get the opportunity to sit down with one of your government officials to have a one-on-one conversation, I think the thing that it mostly does is it makes you feel empowered. Mm-hmm. Because not a lot of people ever get that opportunity to give somebody their story and to ask them something directly that they need to make not only their lives better, but the ones around them, the people around them, their lives better. So I think it's very rewarding.
Mm-hmm. And that is March 8th, and people can find more information at your website?
Yes, afsp.org and /Indiana. And if you go to our events page, it has not posted yet, but it should be posting soon with all of the details.
Excellent.
But you can become a field advocate at any time. I should have mentioned that.
Mm-hmm. And that's still on the website, afsp.org/Indiana?
And yes, and it's under Advocate for Suicide Prevention. And yeah, Advocate for Suicide Prevention is afsp.org, Advocate for Suicide Prevention.
Excellent. And Tammy, before we started talking, you mentioned that there is a date for the walk coming up for 2022.
Yes. We're really excited because of the fact that we're back to our normal Saturday. So it's going to be September 10th this year. And the walk team starts meeting in the first weekend in January. So it is an event that takes us 9 months to plan for. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be we did get to do an in-person walk last year, but we had a little bit of condensed hours. We had to move the date. It was a little bit different than it had been in the past. And I just wanted to let everybody know that we're going to be back to normal in September 10th this year. We'll be back to our normal day, back to our normal hours.
Excellent. And where will the walk be?
It's going to be downtown at the White River State Park. It's Celebration Plaza.
Excellent. And people, can they start registering now for the event, or do they need to wait until after the start of the new year?
It will be after the start of the new year. We usually have our website up the first or second week of January. Mm-hmm. And if you go to afsp.org and follow the community walks, it will take you to, and if you choose Indiana, it's going to take you to the walk when it's registered. And it's usually within the first 2 weeks.
Excellent. And if someone has not been able to go to the walk, can you kind of talk about that experience, what they can see while they're there?
Yeah, we have a lot of resources at the walk. I had lost my daughter in July, and I attended my first walk that following September. And it was the first place that I went that overwhelming sense of there's people who get it. You feel safe. You feel secure. but most of all, you feel hopeful. So while you're there, we do have a live band. We have activities for the kids. We have resource tables with all of our materials for all of our different programs, grief support, and we have materials for people with lived experience. We have a vast array of community partners and resources that come. And it's a very hopeful, inspiring day. And it's also, if you have lost someone to suicide, you can honor them in that day. You can form a team. If you have someone with lived experience that, and you guys want to participate, form teams for them. We're so happy that they're still here. It's a group of people who come together and bring awareness to suicide prevention and mental health, and that we can make a difference.
And that'll be coming up on September 10th of 2022. And more information will be coming to your website and to the Walk's website as well within the first 2 weeks of 2022. And Tammy, as we start to wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to add about the holidays and mental health, what AFSP is doing in the upcoming year, or anything?
The one thing that I just want to express is to make sure to find time for yourself and take care of yourself. If you have a new loss, or if you have struggled with suicidal ideation, make sure to reach out. Reach out to those who are close to you. Reach out and make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Express your grief. It's okay. And then recognize if you need help or you need support. And if you should need help or support, make sure that you're reaching out to let people know, because they might not know. And the best way to do it is to advocate for yourself and just let them know whether you need to talk or you think you need additional help other than that. I also wanted to make sure that everybody does have the crisis text line. So you can text 741-741, or you can call the suicide prevention line at 800-273-8255, and that's 800-273, and TALK is the 8255. So if you can't reach someone and you need to speak with someone, you can always reach out those two avenues as well. But just make sure to keep an eye on your mental health and the thoughts that you're having, and if you need help, reach out.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Tammy.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
For more information, you can visit RadioNowIndy.com, click on our News and Features tab, and then drop down to our mental health information and resources. Within there, you have more resources, including the ones that Tammy mentioned. Remember, you can listen to any of our past episodes of Indy's Connection on our website, while also staying up to date with local news and entertainment. Until next time, have a great week.
Radio Now 100.9's Indy Connection with Emily Metheny.